Well, what's petit amuse really all about?
So petit amuse is it's basically a way to help small food producers reach new customers in markets where it's not easy to get distribution. So we're very similar to, and it's sort of an evolving thing. So we've been running a pilot, but what we're developing into is kind of like, I don't know if you're familiar with Etsy. You've heard of Etsy?
No, I haven't.
Okay. All right. Well, then ignore that comparison. Basically, basically, we're like an online marketplace where if you're like a small artisan food producer, you can create kind of a microsite within our architecture and sell your goods. So the idea is to get together, thousands of high quality small artisan producers on our site actively selling their products. And so for customers, it's kind of a one-stop place to find these guys. And it solves a few big issues for them. So one is when it comes to marketing, they don't have to create their own website. They don't have to actively promote themselves and try and get high ranking in like Google search algorithm and other things like that, which are really challenging to do if you're just like kind of a small food producer. I mean, you don't have any of the skills most likely to do that stuff yourself, and it'd be pretty expensive to hire somebody else. So we kind of take care of that piece. The other piece is fulfillment, and so we have a two-step approach. So all of the new producers that we add, we start with what's called drop shipping. And so the way drop shipping works is you're a customer, you go on the site, you order a bunch of different things. Each of those different items is going to ship directly from the vendor of that product, so whoever produces it, which means that if you want to buy stuff from a bunch of different people, it's separate shipping on all of those products, which is highly inefficient, expensive, and typically the reason why people don't buy food online. But we're going to start out all the new producers that we carry with drop shipping. And so, what'll probably happen is people will say, you'll find a producer you like, you'll buy a few things from them, and that way you're only paying kind of shipping once. And once we've established kind of which products are best sellers or how quickly they're selling through products, then we'll start to actively actually purchase and resell the product. And then we're going to warehouse and distribute those. So basically, this is very similar to Amazon. If you go to Amazon, they have a lot of stuff in their warehouse which you can buy, and you can get the Super Saver shipping or Amazon Prime on those products. And then there's other things that you have to pay separate shipping on, right?
Yeah.
So Amazon helps, like it all sells through Amazon, and a lot of the best-selling products they warehouse and distribute. But some other smaller products or things that don't make sense for them to warehouse for different reasons, those will ship direct from the vendor.
Right, that's smart. So, how do you get all the food? Do you test it, or do you have people sign up, or do you go out and find it?
So kind of a bit of both. We start out by kind of actively looking for it. We've got some people who are total foodies who really kind of know, a lot of these small producers. And we have a pretty good list to go on as far as, who we want and kind of cherry picking the best.
Mm-hmm.
When we first got started, one of the things we needed to do just to validate the concept was to talk to a lot of these guys and see, if what we were planning to do is something that they, would want to be a part of, and to see whether or not, we would predict running into issues getting vendors to sign up. And vendors have been really positive. We've got sort of a long waiting list of those that want to be involved. And right now it's just making some site updates so that we can go from, right now we're basically running a test. So we've got about 40 merchants that we've been rotating through. And then we're also testing out a subscription box that we're doing, and I can tell you more about that. But as soon as we finish that, in the next couple of months, we're going to roll out and start adding, tons and tons of vendors. But your question was, how do you find these guys, and then do you sample their products and stuff? So yes, we don't just take, like, if you want to sell food on our site, we have to sort of approve you. And there's some good reasons for that. One is just quality control. We want to make sure that there's, we only have good quality food products and not just sort of generic crap. So that's a good way to make sure that, every vendor that we have on there is somebody that, we think meets our level of quality in general. And the second is because it's food, there's a lot of sort of legal or liability concerns if we just let people, start selling food without any approval process, because you could be, not licensed or preparing it like all the wrong ways. And even though, we have all these liability things saying, basically the liability is on the vendor or producer of that product. It's not on us. We're just facilitating the sale. If somebody got like food poisoning or something, I'm sure, some litigation would come our way, and we really need to avoid that at all costs.
Right. So what is that subscription thing you were talking about?
So the subscription service is, it's similar to, I think like Birchbox was kind of the first one that came around. I don't know if you heard of them. They do it for cosmetics. And now there's a bunch of these food subscription services, and subscriptions are very popular right now. There's a lot of subscription kind of startups. But what we're doing is, right now I think it's $12 a month, and in a few months it's actually going to be $15 a month. But basically it's a pretty low price per month. And each month you get samples of different sort of artisan food products. And our goal with that is a couple of things. We want to learn about your customer preferences. So, each month you're going to rate up and down the products, and then those that you like, so we know what you like and we know what you don't like. And then over time, we're going to start to refine what you get. So you'll get, things that match your preferences rather than just everybody getting the same thing every month. Right now, we're not set up to do that, but it's something that we plan to do, down the line. And we're not pricing the subscription box to make a profit. So a lot of other companies are basically, they either get the contents of their subscription boxes, like there's a company called Love with Food, and they get a bunch of trade show samples, and I think they get them all basically for free. So it doesn't cost them anything to fill up their boxes with food and send them out to people. But the contents of what they're getting are typically really generic stuff. So if you want like a small food producer to provide samples of things for people to try and hopefully like and buy more, you have to pay for those samples, because these small companies, they just can't afford to just be giving out a lot of product like that. So we pay for all of the samples, and we break even on the subscription box. And the whole idea is really just to have a very good matching process. So try and get the right samples in the hands of the right people, so that they're really going to like them, and then you turn that person into an ongoing customer.
What prevents food manufacturers from just signing up on the site, but then having their own little site where they can sell food? And I don't know how much you mark up or if you make any profit or anything off of it. What prevents people from just doing that and then having customers go to their site and not really use your service? Sure.
And in fact, there are a number of them that already operate, their own site. So we're another sales channel for them. And I guess nothing prevents people from, there's a couple of things. One is we make sure, and we have an agreement with them, that whatever pricing they have on their site has to be the same pricing on our site. So, we can't have a situation where people are going to find products on our site and then go buy it somewhere else because they're going to get a better price somewhere else. Right. So we have pricing parity, and we're also integrating some social promotion. So, you know what, that's probably we can talk about that if there's time at the end. But basically this pricing parity concept, right? So that people aren't going to leave and buy it somewhere else because of price. Right. If you want to go somewhere else, if you see it on our site and you want to go buy it direct from the vendor, we're not going to stop you from doing that. But it's going to be significantly more convenient for you to buy, your stuff through us. Yeah. And there's a number of other sort of online retailers that have the same issue, right? There's products that you could buy like directly from a certain source or through their more convenient marketplace. And customers typically want to get it through the marketplace. It's a better user interface. You can buy things from a bunch of different vendors at once. It's a better customer experience. There are a lot of reasons. It's kind of like if people went to Amazon, found something on Amazon, and then wanted to dig around and try and find that vendor, because a lot of the companies that sell on Amazon, right, they sell other places, but Amazon still gets most of that business, because as a customer, there really isn't that much of a reason once you've found it on Amazon to want to go somewhere else to try and purchase it. You're gonna buy it through Amazon. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. So, also another thing, is there any way that you can actually help like food producers to get into stores or anything like that? Is there any way that you can, kind of assist them to being successful?
Yes, and actually that's sort of the social purpose of what we're doing. We're filling a particular stage in a life cycle of like these small food producers. So it's somebody who is big enough that they're selling through retailers, or they can, and they have sort of a license to do so, and potentially also have a wholesale license. Well, actually, it's the same thing, right? So basically, they're licensed to be able to sell through a retailer, but they're not selling everywhere. They're not like ubiquitous across the country. They're not in like every Whole Foods. Typically, if I'm a small food producer and I'm doing pretty well, then I'm selling in a number of small stores in my local area, maybe in my state or a couple of surrounding states. I'm in a few Whole Foods. I'm in a few like sort of natural foods or specialty foods markets. But other than that, I have no presence on the other side of the country, or there might be like one or two stores. And so this is about helping those food producers, reach those customers they can't meet. And as they develop their brand and they develop their sales, this is sort of a stepping stone to getting distribution through those other channels. So if somebody's selling really well and growing, through our site, then they're probably going to start picking up, getting those distributor relationships that they couldn't get, and getting into those other sort of retail channels. And it may be the case that eventually a product becomes, in theory, too big for us, right? Because once they're selling everywhere, then there really isn't that much of a need for our site. Because if you can just go to any store and pick up, this food product, then why would you want to buy it through us online? And so, once those products become like really accessible, then we don't really fit with that product anymore. And quite frankly, we've done them a great service, and we've sold a lot in the meantime. And we probably still continue to carry them because, people who are already, accustomed to buying them through us might continue to do so. But it's, really the focus is on helping those small producers kind of get through that glass ceiling that's preventing them from growing. And below that glass ceiling, when they don't have a distributor, when they're not getting those sort of national sales distribution options or opportunities, it's really hard for a lot of these small like food producers to make enough money to stay in business. So they might have this awesome, incredible product that people love, but they just can't get the right sales channels, and as a result, they can't sell enough of it to do it efficiently to make money and stay in business. And so great products just disappear because the business side of things wasn't working out, despite the fact that the product was awesome. And that's the problem we're solving.
Are you thinking of staying exclusively online, or do you want to open up something like an actual store?
There's the potential to do something offline later, but right now, we're singularly focused with online. There are a lot of things that we want to do to make that experience really great, and we haven't, we have so much more to do online that I think that we want to tackle that before we consider other options.
Okay, awesome. And then also I wanted to talk a little bit about the American Express side of things.
Sure.
So, what was your role mainly at American Express? I think you had several, didn't you?
I did. So I spent a lot of my professional career at American Express. Worked in a number of different roles. So I started in the small business division. Worked there for maybe 3 years in marketing, so I did a lot of sort of marketing campaigns and promotions. I guess it's kind of like either product or project management type of roles where, I would be in charge of setting sort of a business strategy, figuring out what messaging do we need around this, what are our goals, what are we trying to accomplish, and then overseeing all the moving parts to make sure that happens. So that I would work with, marketing like agencies that would do all the creative design, and I'd give them a lot of direction and sort of lead that back and forth to ensure that they would come up with the creative, and then I'd work with sort of our internal logistics team and make sure that we could get all the pieces out that we needed to, that they work the right way, and ultimately promote whatever it is that I was working on. I think a lot of that time I worked on a program that is still around. It's called Open Savings. So an open card is a small business product, and there are certain vendors that if you go to Staples, I think you get a 2% discount automatically on your card in a couple of different places. So a lot of the marketing was around promoting that service to our customers, and then also helping to acquire new card members, because this is like sort of a core selling feature of the small business product that really differentiates it from just a generic consumer product. And Amex kind of, at least at the time that I was there, really had struggled with trying to differentiate its products. A lot of people who were small businesses were using consumer products because there weren't really any special features that made it like the small business product specifically relevant to small businesses. And we were one of those core features, so it was about educating people on that. So I did that for a few years. Worked in traveler's checks and gift cards. So it's basically the prepayments division of Amex. And so I worked directly for an executive there for, I think, a year maybe. So it was, I did all kinds of stuff, finance and marketing related, basically helping them figure out, how do we cut costs, because traveler's checks are in decline. And so it's about sort of managing expenses on that product. And then for gift cards, it was a high growth product at the time. So it was about, how do we really, grow this product, get new customers, get new sales channels, promote and market it in unique ways to unique customer segments. So I did that, and then, I don't know. Is there anything else specifically that you want to know? Or
well, what would you say is the number one mistake that small businesses make when they're marketing?
So I think small businesses, it's tough to say. So one advantage that you have as a large company is you have a lot of data. So you can do data-driven marketing. Like, you don't have to make a bunch of assumptions. You can just, let the data dictate like what the right things are to do. And so small businesses, from what I've seen, kind of get caught up in pursuing options that are really just based on their own intuition. So, they think something's a good idea and they like it, or it looks good to them. So let's go ahead and run with that. Rather than doing any A/B testing or really trying to get some feedback, before making kind of those decisions. And so marketing really breaks down to, I think, three elements, right? It's who are you targeting? How are you messaging, to those people? So like, how are you saying whatever it is that you're trying to say? And then there's the actual offer of what it is that you're providing, right? Mm-hmm. And all three of those are really important components. And all three of those really require good customer feedback in development. So the offer is, it's basically the product that you're selling. So you really want to make sure that whatever it is that you're doing really resonates with who you think that customer is, and try and understand that customer, rather than just saying, well, making some assumptions because you think other people are exactly like you. So if you like it, they'll like it. That's a really bad way to sort of to go about trying to promote your business. So there's that piece. The messaging, I think, is critically important. It's kind of easier to test. Online you can do a lot of like A/B testing. So A/B testing is, let's run an ad, like this version for a day or two and see what kind of response we get, and then let's run, that version for a day or two and see what kind of response we get, right? You can just see which one's performing better. I mean, that's a really sort of simple way to do it. And that's something that any small business can do that doesn't really require a lot of sort of analytics or like data in order to make decisions. So that's sort of the messaging piece. And then the who you're targeting piece is incredibly important. So don't just assume that you know exactly who it is that's buying your stuff, but really kind of try and this is more there's two ways to go about it. You can either, well, the way that I'm pursuing it right now is there are a couple of customer segments that Petit Amuse is actually very relevant to, but we haven't yet figured out who is our core customer, like who's our best customer that we really want to develop this product for. And for any business, you've heard like the term 80-20 rule. Have you heard of this?
I haven't. No.
Okay. So 80-20 rule it's basically you spend like in 20% of your time, like say that you're working on something, right? It takes you 20% of the time to get like 80% of it done. And then the other 80% of your time, you're trying to finish that last 20%. And so the idea is around efficiency. So like 80% is usually good enough. And then you don't want to waste, like you can get something mostly done or to a point where it's like good enough pretty quickly. Mm-hmm. But then spend forever trying to get it perfect at the end, right?
Right.
And a lot of times good enough is good enough. And so, you want to kind of stop there and move on. Or good enough is good enough for now. Let's put that out there and let's see what type of response we get. So that's kind of what we're doing with Petit Amuse. It's sort of this, what's called like a lean startup approach. It's where you do sort of this iterative feedback loop. You create something, you put it out there, you see how people are responding, where it resonates well, and then you respond to that and you refine. So what we're going to do is once we understand a bit better, who are the people who are purchasing, most of the products, who are heavy customers, consumers on our site. So not just people who are, occasionally buying, but like who are the people that are really making us, keeping us in business, and that's our top 5 or 10% of customers. And when we understand, and then we're going to really try and understand those people better and design the site more around them. And that will be, our core customer segment. And Petit Amuse is relevant to a lot of different groups. So I'm not sure who exactly our best customer is yet. But that's how we're going about sort of figuring it out and how we're going to move forward.